Today I want to talk to you about close reading. Close reading is just a handy strategy that we use when we are reading, especially nonfiction text, and there's a lot to process. So we want to slow down and read it in chunks and look at some specific things to help us with our comprehension and help us to not only understand the text, but even to analyze it and go deeper with it too. So we'll start with looking at some of these definitions here. Do you know what all these words mean? Determine, central idea, analyze, development, relationship, supporting ideas. If you aren't sure about one of those terms or two of those terms, it might be good for you to stop and study this guide for just a little bit. Just because I might use these words as we talk, and if you don't have an understanding of what those words mean, then you might be a little bit lost. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to take out a little piece of scratch paper and a pencil. You're not going to need to turn this paper in or anything like that, but I do want you to make a list in a second. So you need it. I'm going to give you a second here. You can pause this if you need to, but get out paper and a pencil. All right. What I'm going to have you do in a minute is I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm only going to let you see the picture for 5 seconds. If you are watching this on Google Classroom, don't pause it and take a longer time. I want you to get the true effect of why close reading is really important. So I'm going to have you just look at the picture for 5 seconds. And then after that 5 seconds is over, I want you to write down everything you remember seeing in the picture. Ready? Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to give you a minute. You can pause the video here. Write down all the things that you remember seeing in that picture. Okay, so there's a good chance that you did not see some certain things. I want you to know this about the picture, that the artist who created it using everyday objects that you might see around your house. And those things are actually hidden in this painting. And so I'm actually going to show you the picture again, but this time I want you to take more like 30 seconds to view it. And I want you to look and really look closely and see. I think you're going to see some different things this time. So I'm going to go to the picture again and then pause the video and give it about 30 seconds. So if you looked for 30 seconds at that picture, you probably saw a lot of surprising things that you wouldn't have noticed with just a quick glance, right? So, I typically have students say that they see that the sign for the bodega is a taco, that there's a ruler that goes across here, and the post is made of pencils, and even the girl's dress or shirt tunic is a chip. It looks like a tortilla chip. There's a sidewalk made of graham crackers. I mean, there's so many different things in this picture. The trees over here are broccoli. Things that you wouldn't have noticed unless you really studied it. Dog bones around the top, and the bricks are all dog bones. I mean, I could go on and on, right? So when we talk to you about close reading, we're talking about this process of stopping and looking at a text and analyzing it a little bit longer, not because the information in the text is always so important, but because we can learn a lot by observing how a text is written and why a text is written, and it can make the experience of reading so much richer. So there's kind of two different helpful tools that can help us do close reading. This first one is the one on the left that has very, it's pretty, and it kind of tells you that you should read something 3 times. And I know that that sounds like a lot, and I wouldn't ask you to read the same thing 3 times every day. But every once in a while I might ask you to do a close reading where you do this sort of thing. You have a first, second, third read. And the main idea is the first time that you read the text, that you read it to just kind of get the gist of it. What is this article about? What is this text saying? What's jumping out to me? What questions do you have? That sort of thing. And then the second time that you look at the article or the text, you focus a little bit deeper on some more specific things, like what text structures are used, how are the text features placed, what is the purpose of this article, how does the author feel about the subject, why did the author use a particular word or phrase, looking at connotation and that sort of thing. So that's the second time that you read it, and that's going to help you get a more of an enriched view. And then the third time is when you really go that really deep level and you're thinking about the inferences that you can make. You're looking at how the author supports their ideas. You're looking at how this relates to other texts that you've read and how it relates to your own life. And so this is what we want to work towards, and we're not going to do it perfectly every time. We might do parts of it. I might just say, look at this question and this question in your second read, or just focus on this in your third read. You don't have to do it all, and so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed or burdened. It doesn't have to be a really long, lengthy process. When we did this last year, I really liked this upside down triangle kind of picture for those of you who are visual like I am, because it shows that when you analyze a text to gain a deeper understanding, it helps you to hold conversations with people about what you've read and that sort of thing. But this upside down triangle shows that, the first time you read, it's that big picture. You're just focusing on kind of the building blocks of the article, the most important things of the article. And then the second time you read, it's more about the author's view, and you're kind of getting into that middle level of looking at specifics. And then that last time, it's about internalizing it and turning the topic of the article and the information in the article or the text onto yourself and thinking about your own views and your own perspective and your own outlook. So that's a really powerful image for you to think about whenever we talk about close reading. So in the past, we've taught students a specific kind of way to mark up a text, because when you do close reading, it often requires you to write things down, because our brains process information differently when we're writing things down. So we want to focus on doing that and making that a regular practice. I know that, we're reading The Outsiders right now as I'm making this video, and I write in my book. It's why I always have the same book. It's because I take notes and I write and I underline things and I ask questions and I make connections. You can see, questions that I've written down in here and that sort of thing. So that's a regular practice that people who are effective readers do. And so we want to practice that. So one of the things that we do when we read a text is we just number the paragraphs. And the only time that you really need to do that is when we're in class and we're going to talk about the text afterwards as a group. So that way I can say, hey, look at paragraph 5. Or you can raise your hand and you can say, I noticed in paragraph 12, and we all know where to look, right? And then the second thing that you need to do when you do a close reading is just circle any key term that you find. Any big words that you feel like have been repeated or focused on quite a bit, anything that the author spends a lot of time on, you're going to circle those things. And then the next thing we want you to do is we want you to underline any claims that the author makes, any opinions that the author has that she kind of states as facts. Global warming is a serious issue. That's something that she's stating as a fact, but it's her perspective or her outlook, not necessarily an opinion, but you know what I mean. So that's what we're going to do then. The next thing we're going to do is look specifically at writing some notes about what we feel like the author is saying. And if you do that all on the same side of your article, like on the left margin, then that can be really helpful. And then the last thing is paying attention to what the author is doing and what connections and inferences you can make. That's where the analysis piece really comes in. And so I will show you a model of this. I'm not going to do it right now because this video is already 10 minutes long, but I will show you kind of a little snapshot of how this looks. You know, this person has underlined claims and circled some different things. 99% was repeated, million, 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 you know, Occupy Wall Street, capital letters might be important. So they've underlined and circled some things, and then over on the left side, they've kind of summarized what the first two paragraphs are about. And then over on the right side, they're making notes about what the author is doing. The author is contrasting LeBron James to the 99%. And so this is the kind of thing we're going to ask you guys to do starting next time. I don't know when that really will be. Could be tomorrow, could be the next day. Depends on when you view this video. So for now, that's all I have for you. See you later.